Alright, I'm recording. Just
Alright,
you keep...
wait.
Alright, everyone's silent.
I got like 2 bites left of this camera.
Shut up, Parafix!
Remove Josh from the call.
I'm the host of the call, bitches.
There he goes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Conclave. Parafix is gone. No, now he's back.
I'm the host of the call, bitches.
Alright, today's episode, whenever the fuck today is, will be spin-offs, or Game of Thrones spin-offs, or what we want for spin-offs, or what's been discussed about it. And we'll have sort of been ranting from there.
Perhaps some spin-offs of that topic.
What, spin-offs or spin-offs? Stop trying to derail us, Frosty! I mean, Jacob.
First,
Yes.
biggest rule, or biggest rumour, is that it, rather than be what everyone wants it to be, Duncan Egg, is that it's a prequel of Robert's Rebellion. Everyone's opinions.
I would love to see Duncan Egg, but I would not be mad with Robert's Rebellion.
Yeah, same. Robert's Rebellion
But
would be...
how long do you think Robert's Rebellion can go on for?
I can see 3 seasons out of that.
I don't want to see
Easy.
Duncan Egg. I really don't.
Ooh.
Issue with Duncan Egg, it's more of like an adventure than it is a drama. Or
Yeah,
anything.
I feel like
Yeah.
it'll be.
Yeah. That could be like a movie.
It would make a brilliant movie.
It'll be a
Yeah,
good movie.
I can see
Yeah,
that.
it'll be a
Yeah.
great movie. But it's just
There.
not. It
should
doesn't
listen
go
to the
into
podcast.
the politics of things, and
Yeah, there's no intrigue or...
Yeah, and also with Robert's Rebellion, they've already got a young Ned Stark actor, a Lyanna actor, if what's said about season 7 is true, a Rhaegar actor.
Yeah.
They've already. It seems like they're already lining up some stuff for this, and rumors have said that is what they're
Yeah.
going to do.
If they
And I
do,
could
if they do
easy
a
see-
sequel and they want to like roll off of the popularity of Game of Thrones itself,
Yeah.
Robert's
It's the
Rebellion
easiest
is the
way
way
to,
to go.
It's the easiest way to keep invested fans invested.
Well, you've
Yeah,
got
and I could.
you've got John and the flashbacks and everything. It can be easily relatable to the main show.
Yeah, and that way they could tie it into people that don't read the books but still watch the show will know a little bit about it.
Yeah, but you've
A bit
already
more
watched all the flashbacks and everything, and John's story.
Well, the issue is they're totally doing Star Wars. Let's
And
release the sequels before the prequels.
no. Okay,
I get-
I'm gonna.
Whoa. This is Game of Thrones.
Whoa.
Para,
Let me just add on to that, because this is why George R. R. Martin should just hire me.
Job
Please give me
application
a
for
job.
Josh Lewis now. Begin.
What you just mentioned about Star Wars do something great, and I don't know if any of you fuckers actually look into Star Wars. Do you watch? Are you
Not
into the lore Star Wars?
extensively, every now and again.
I watched the movies. I haven't really paid much.
Right,
Right, you've got the
Stuff with you a
movies,
little
you've
bit
got the graphic novels, you've got the comics that have been like, you got the expanded universe, you got Legends, which is like a story that's not.
I've read some of the books.
I've
and
delved a
stuff.
little into it, not much.
You have Star Wars: The Clone Wars and
British
Star Wars
average
Rebels that are cartoon shows for kids, but are canon to the lore.
Mhm.
The way that I see how they could, this whole Westeros thing could be made into a thing just like Star Wars, hands down, easily. There is enough
It
eras
could
that
become a
already.
brand. It could become a brand like Star Wars is.
Oh yeah, there's totally enough history there that they could easily.
They could
And-
do an Age of Heroes.
And it's
Oh, that would be
Right, okay.
so awesome! Like
Let
the
Para
Andal
finish.
invasion.
Let Para finish.
right, okay.
Pause. Let's
Okay.
go back to that in a second.
I've thought
sorry.
about this. I've thought about this a lot. Right. Okay. Duncan Egg should be a cartoon. I think it's perfectly capable of being a cartoon for teenagers, adults, just like Star Wars Rebels, where it's there for the lore purposes. It's all.
It's focusing on like a few central characters rather than a massive.
Yeah, exactly. It's an adventure.
It's an adventure
a
story.
cartoon that is, and it
I'd watch
expands the audience into a different demographic.
I'd watch that.
For things like Robert's Baratheon, Robert's Rebellion, that is most plausible new season, but it's too closely related to what's happening in Game of Thrones.
Do you think
where-
we could like make it into a trilogy or something? Like cut it up into like 3
trilogy
parts.
movie.
What
No,
films?
I think they will go to it, but I think going to it straight after Game of Thrones as the next project is a bad idea.
I think
Yeah, they
in
need to
terms
wait.
of what they could do with Robert's Rebellion, I'd see more like the first season would be a little before the rebellion, a second season the rebellion itself, a third season the first part of Robert's reign.
Well, they could have it like the Ned and Robert growing up in the Vale a little bit as the first season. They could have that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
up
and
into
like
it.
the
Yeah,
politics and stuff and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's
Dude,
what
Well,
I
the first
growing up
season,
in
it
Vale.
wouldn't focus so much on Ned and Robert. Like,
That's
introduce
right,
them
okay.
later.
But okay, but still, at the same, going by the same point, it's too close to the era and it's too close to Game of Thrones as a TV show. And the reason why Game of Thrones became interesting, it was simply there's killing with swords, there's dragons, and there's tits.
Don't forget the boobs.
That's why I said tits.
Yep. I know. I was just.
He was on your side.
But yeah, there's
highlighting the point, Para, or points.
Those are the three core elements of what Game of Thrones, why it made it popular at the start. Because the acting was still a bit iffy at the start, and it was a lot of people struggled to get into it. And then once it progressed, people going, "Okay, this is fucking genius. This is just magic." But I think, to keep people interested in on a spin-off franchise, to keep the viewership that HBO have got from Game of Thrones, I think you have two eras, and the smartest era would be the War of Conquest, but the other era would be the Dance of Dragons.
I was just thinking it would be. Okay.
Dance of Dragons is probably the best politically.
Best
At the same time, it's probably
drama.
It's probably
Wait,
Let Parafix finish.
Yeah.
And then we'll go, because I have a point I want to make too.
Right, so with the War of Conquest, you've got somewhat politics, but you also have the kind of Aegon being fucking invincible. Like, but I would love to see the Field of Fire. I'd love to the burning of Paranor. I'd love
some
to
of those
see
iconic moments.
I'd love to see the Arryn Lord jumping on the back of a dragon, then swearing fealty. I'd love to see the Northern armies marching down and going, "Oh, I love that!" Like
that bend the knee artwork.
The Storm King cutting off the hand of the envoy.
Yeah, that sort of shit would be great. But Dance of Dragons has got the politics, and you could do half a season on just the all the politics about the legitimacy and gaining favour in court and having the two factions, whatever colour dragons.
All the bits before Viserys' death.
Yeah.
And then everything the end of a season, like, you know how Game of Thrones was episode 9 is when everything kicks off.
And
they do that. That's when Viserys dies and then shit happens.
But I always picture it about it's with all these TV shows. I picture the end season, especially with Game of Thrones, where the end episode of how it's going to look and what it's going to look like. And with the Dance of Dragons, I can imagine, I forgot his name, but him jump over the God's Eye, the chap fucking jumping off
Daemon
his dragon.
and
Aemond.
Daemon and Aemond. Yeah.
Him jumping off that being one of the second to last scene of him jumping off his dragon and fucking plunging into the God's Eye with his sword going through the fucking eye. That would be just beautiful to watch with the CGI that they're capable of at that point.
Only issue with the Dance of Dragons I foresee is the dumbing down aspect of the Game of Thrones. I mean, different producers, so that might not be an issue, but in Game of Thrones you experience
how many characters would they remove?
Yeah, how many characters would be cut? How simplified would it be made? In order
but the thing is, they would, with these sort of eras, these other eras, they wouldn't be able to simplify as much as Game of Thrones because they're going to want to get at least a couple of seasons out.
There's not as much,
It's if you look at The Hobbit, for example, as movies, they added shit with the Astari, the wizards, and Elrond and Galadriel at Dol Guldur when they get rid of Sauron. That's not in the Hobbit books, but as someone that's read The Hobbit since he was 4 years old, it was the first book I ever fucking read that I can remember, and that I've read. I knew Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was my shit before Game of Thrones, and now I can't even remember half the shit. But when it came to
movie didn't even fucking happen.
But with the shit in Dol Guldur, that shit was as a Lord of the Rings fan, that was the thing that I cared more about than the rest of the story. It's the second I knew that they were going to Dol Guldur and the extended version where they meet Thrain. That shit was that was the thing I cared about.
It's the extra depth they added to it.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I was thankful about Peter. What's his name? Peter
Jackson.
Because Lord of the Rings, I was pissed off about the removal of Tom Bombadil and the Barrow Whites and the the fucking Corsairs and all these little things that mattered to me. But I think Game of Thrones, if they were to do Dance of Dragons, I don't think they could afford to do it. I think they would go out of their way to make sure they have all these smaller characters. And the amount of fucking new time actors, brilliant actors that would want to just do it. Just even if it was a small part, just to be part.
I won't argue it'd be great, but I fear that they'd go down the road of cutting out shit.
I can understand that fear, because there is a lot of ulterior storylines.
It wouldn't be D&D, which is, in my opinion, a good thing.
They want to make their own mark on the show rather than just copying George R. R. Martin's work.
Well, yeah.
I'd rather someone just copy George R. R. Martin's work and extend it.
Well, it's a good thing with a spin-off. In certain areas, we only have so much information. There is a lot more creative freedom there than there would be with the books.
But the way that I see it, going back to the Star Wars thing, Duncan Egg would be a fantastic cartoon. You could expand that story, the whole adventure. You get a load of seasons out of that, and it's relatively cheap to make, and it brings in a larger audience. And it also, you could do it so it approaches the younger audience, like Star Wars Rebels does, where Star Wars Rebels is quite dark for a cartoon, but kids don't notice it. They do it in a way where kids aren't so obvious.
In a way where it can, whereas if you're an adult, you see the deeper
appeal to
meanings
both
and
audiences.
Yeah.
It's done quite like but we're going through. Right. You could have, like, say, being able to put it into movies, I think is and going by this whole idea of doing spin-offs on the TV show. So War of Conquest could be done as a TV show for 2 seasons, maybe 3. 2 seasons, I think, for 10 episodes each. You could do it pretty well. You would just have to Dance of Dragons. You could do 2, maybe 3 seasons out of it pretty well.
I'd see 3 for Dance.
You could do all the but like, say, the Reigns of Castamere. I'd fucking love to see a Reigns of Castamere fucking movie. I would
a movie,
yeah. That
it would be. Yeah, it would either be a movie or a short season or something. You can't get.
I don't even think they should make a season.
I would want to see that as a movie, as something I could just sit down once and enjoy it. And
I could see a 3-hour movie.
The benefit of a movie.
It's too short a scenario for a season.
The benefit of a movie over
it's the same as
the movie. You get a beginning, a middle, of an end. A season, you've got to do that every time with every episode.
Yeah.
Whereas Castamere, they can do it a bit easier. Build up. Holy shit! Everything's happened. Tywin kills everyone.
I've got a point I need to make about. I don't really think that the War of Conquest would be a viable thing to do a series about, because it's. I mean, it's such a. I think it's just Aegon killing everyone. It's not intricate enough.
I agree with that. There aren't any politics to it. He just kills everyone. He doesn't put anyone to bed.
I mean, there's like a little bit with Ori's going to the Stormlands, but I mean, it's not intricate enough.
It's not going to. He meets.
There's some
the
things.
There's
a little bit.
There is stuff, and there's a lot of creative freedom there. You could make a lot.
There is so much creative.
That's the advantage to it. There isn't enough content on it, so he hasn't had a lot of breathing room.
Damn it.
Yes, they would have to change a lot, I feel.
Yeah, they'd have to make up a lot of stuff. But
they wouldn't have to change anything. They would have to. HBO can get the best writers in the world. They just got to say, "Hi, we're HBO," and every writer goes, "Yes." Like that wouldn't be an issue. And
there's a lot of creative.
George R. R. Martin's
That's what I'm saying. Like, they can't
to
stay true to what they can't just, like what you guys were saying earlier. They can't just copy paste George R. R. Martin if they're going to do Wars of Conquest.
Yeah, but I think
you guys were saying. I think that's Dave and Dan to do.
They wouldn't be able to copy and paste it because it'd be too short. But with they have the creative freedom to do stuff like everyone loves the Starks. Just the politics of what's going on with Torrance Stark, him rallying his banners and like the politics about what we're going to do about it.
You could flush it out so much.
Well, like the fact that him bending the knee and renouncing King of the North was frowned upon epically by his people, but saved them.
And
it was a hard choice.
You could do the family backstory for all of these people. You could do Argo the Galleons, talking about he used to be a great warrior and everything, and there's still, you could do all the stories. There is story for the Storm Kings. There is story. They have the guidelines. You just have to have the creative freedom to make it. It's not necessarily a bad thing that they can't just copy and paste the story. I think it's a good thing.
I just don't think it would be.
I agree with Jacob in the fact there are other better choices.
Yeah, there are many. I think that Dance of Dragons would be much better, and I think Blackfire Rebellions has
Blackfire Rebellion would be better. Blackfire Rebellion, because I suppose if Blackfire Rebellion I think would be better this going back to the show and a bit of a pet peeve. If Young Griff had been a thing, there'd be more incentive to do Backfire Rebellion.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point.
Because it's like
was Para
expanding more on the possibility of his character.
Para was saying something before you went off.
Okay, say something.
Right. Okay. So with Robert Baratheon has got the Robert's Rebellion has. I would fucking say the first season, just the layout, like say how Game of Thrones, the book and the first season is portrayed. It's the lead up to the whole shit. I would fucking love to see Harren the Black and his sons, raiding the Riverlands and all that kind of shit. I would love to hear rumors from the Lannisters and Tyrells discussing rumors of a Dragon King ready for war. I would love the first season could even be the fucking Targaryens and the Dorondons or whatever, the Stormlands. They go off to war with one of the
old Valyria or New Valyria. Sorry,
they go to war with one of the three cities.
Volantis.
If it's Volantis, fair enough.
It's Volantis with New Valyria. Yeah.
Yeah,
Volantis,
and that could be,
they declare themselves New Valyria.
For the TV show, that makes sense to do it from that perspective, from all these different houses and the build up for the first season.
Yeah,
and then final scene thing, a lot like the first final scene of the season 1, where it's Daenerys with her dragons newly born, but instead of about him looking over his new table of carved of Westeros and saying we're going for it. And then the second season of Harren the Black and that whole gathering the Tully loyalists and all that kind of shit. But with Robert's Rebellion, you can also do the same. I love the idea of it being 2 seasons of all the politics and the marriages that like Jon Arryn talking to Robert, and you got the Battle of the Bells, you got the Battle of Ashford, all these things that I'd love to fucking see. But the way to end it would be to do a movie, and that would be the Greyjoy Rebellion. So it all entwines.
That was what was rumored for Game of Thrones itself, was that it would end with a movie. That was like a few seasons ago. They rumored that season 8 wouldn't happen. You'd have season 7, the full 10 episodes, or whatever, and then you'd have a movie to cap it all off.
Yeah, and I think they realised they would be crunching, even for them. They'd be crunching way too much story. It would be way too much story to crunch. But I would but just to Robert's Rebellion and all that kind of shit, and then while you're creating the Greyjoy Rebellion, it would allow the actors to age a bit and make more sense, and it would be like the final cutting point into Game of Thrones, is Theon being taken hostage as a kid, and all the Greyjoy sons being killed, and Robert's power I'd love to see Robert as full power, uniting all the kingdoms, and
not as a fat shit. He's a young, promising king.
Yeah.
But going back to what I said at the start, was that would have to be later. As much as I would want to see it, I'd rather see.
Yeah, give it some time.
I'd rather see War of Conquest beforehand, and then see Dance of Dragons.
What we've mentioned before is, from the perspective of the show, Robert's Rebellion is the easiest way to retain the audience, because it's characters they know. It's characters people have developed a relationship with. They know the Starks. They like Eddard Stark. They want to find out. People love the flashback scenes at the moment. So it adds on to his character.
The easiest.
That's what Robert's Rebellion does.
People like the flashbacks. Like, the only reason why I like the flashbacks is because it's confirming theories that I've had for a very fucking long time, and that millions of us have heard for a very long time. And the flashbacks have been simply, give me R plus L equals J. That's all the theories have been. Is all the flashbacks.
Yeah, because once the actual series is over, the flashbacks won't mean anything. Like it'll just be. Because we'll already know everything. We won't need to be fed the information.
Jon's connection to the whole War of the Usurper and everything, and then Robert Baratheon and all that stuff. From it's like the safest option for them to do a spin-off is to go to Robert's Rebellion. That's what I think they do from there.
It's the safest for the show. I was trying to make.
It's the safest option for the show because of the connection between the two, which is probably why they'd go over that.
At the same time, doing that sort of thing never. Look at Star Wars.
No, yeah, I won't argue it has its faults. But
the prologues of the Star Wars movies, even if they had great actors, and George Lucas didn't fuck it up with his writing and his directing and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, literally insane.
Fucking, even if that shit was great, it still would have sucked because everyone knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like
I'd rather see the progress of Westeros from the start of the conquest.
Yeah, so
that's the main thing is honestly, doing the Robert's Rebellion, it limits their scale.
But see, that's why I don't like. That's why I don't like the War of Conquest. It's because it's just Aegon winning everything. He wins. He never fucking loses until you get to Dorne, and that's. I mean, it's minor.
Yeah, you can't build into it too much. Whereas, like
his fleet was destroyed. That's the dragons. You
can build into more the diplomacy of the relationship between Aegon and Visenya, or Rhaenys. Sorry.
Plus, who doesn't like dragons burning?
Game of Thrones isn't based on one character. That you could easily make someone love Harren the Black. He's the Ramsay of that era. He was a fucking cunt.
You could very easily flush out War of Conquest.
Yeah, same as Durrandon. He's a fucking. He's the exact same as the Baratheon line.
Yeah, he killed the king of the
maybe
he used to be a badass.
Great warriors.
If they did go with that, they'd have to go huge and go farther and keep going with it. You know. Yeah,
I feel like they'd need to not pussy out of it, essentially. They
wouldn't have to stop with Aegon. They'd have to just keep going. You know, honestly, I feel like if you just
do the entire Targaryen dynasty,
almost
from Aegon to Aerys, just do it all.
You could do the eras quite easily. Like Blackfire Rebellion.
Just go to the big ones.
Blackfire Rebellions could be one season each. It's easy. You don't need to do
easy.
You don't have to do more than one season for each Blackfire Rebellion.
There's only 2 Blackfire Rebellions you need to do, though. The Blackfire Rebellion and the War of the
Night. Like the eras, like you could come up with like a cool name and just go like the eras of Westeros or something like that.
Yeah, just call the show Westeros.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that.
And
you could go and then you could go even farther back. You could go to like the Andal invasion. Like you could see you could go like see the raising of the wall, the Children of the Forest going back. That would be fucking awesome. Like for a book reader, I don't think the people that watch the show would give a shit. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I personally would
from a show point of view, you've got the War of Conquest, Dance of Dragons. I think Age of Heroes would do fine if you just had to make up a story from scratch using the banners and the families and houses in the world that people know.
I feel like everything they do needs to in some way connect to Game of Thrones, which is
people know Stark, they know Lannister.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They have to do that. They can't do talking about They can't do a series concentrating on the minor houses of the North.
Well, they could do like that would work.
You're thinking this from perspective as people that are experienced with the lore.
Yeah.
You got to say with Game of Thrones, like this Robert's Rebellion shit is mentioned in the past, and you see a couple of flashbacks here and there. You have like 2 seconds of Aerys the Mad and all that kind of stuff.
People don't know
but people get interested in that shit because they see these things or hear about them. It's why Robert's Rebellion is popular, because they've heard so much about it, especially with the flashbacks. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, which is why it's the most likely one that they'll go with.
But at the same time, you can add on to that by doing War of Conquest has been mentioned, especially in the first couple of seasons. Even with Arya in Harrenhal with Tywin, they're talking about
Harren and him building his fortress. Yeah,
and fucking Visenya and riding. Is it Meraxes?
Meraxes.
Yeah,
just Meraxes.
This sort of shit has been added, and
it's all there. Yeah.
I first started reading the books on season 1, and then when it got to all these other things about in the show and in the books where they're talking about other things, I would then start I've got 3 copies of each book, and 1 copy is a hard book that I don't touch. They're just my collective things. They look nice. I've got my other books that my other set is for me to read. So
you've got that one book that you threw across the room.
That one's in the bin. That one's gone. It was destroyed. I ripped that up.
Visenya wrote Vagar.
But
Visenya wrote Vagar because Meraxes was the one that was killed in Dorne.
Yeah, Meraxes was Rhaenys.
On Rhaella.
Yeah. Arya's going on about how she likes.
That was bugging me. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I had to know.
But then I have a final. My final set is with little notes. I literally write notes on every page, and there's little bits of paper sticking out of each page that I for my theories and all that kind of shit. That's why I've read them so many times, because
what you've learned here today, ladies and gentlemen, is that Parafix is fucking mental.
He is obsessed.
I do that with some books. I do that with, like, Stephen
every
King
book's
stuff.
got about 100, like at least 100 notes in each one, and then about, God knows, half the pages got little notes, little bits of paper sticking in saying which line to read and why it's important with the theory or whatever. And the only reason why I got that interested was just hearing it from the book and the show, with them saying about this shit, like the shit at Harrenhal, or Rob and Ed are talking about the Mad King and the first season book, about the Dothraki horde and no one can beat it. That's when I was like, oh, okay, see if they are unbeatable. I researched it, and then, oh, look, the fucking Unsullied beat them. That's why the Unsullied are great, because they're the only ones to beat the Dothraki on the open field. All the Dothraki cut off their braids and chuck them down in front of the Unsullied. That was fucking great. All this sort of shit. And with the TV show adaptation, you could easily do a War of Conquest, because there's enough interest. People understand what the War of Conquest is.
Yeah.
You know what the major houses are.
If they flushed it out and use the houses.
Say from a Tyrell perspective, from the Reach perspective, you could do House Tyrell. They were the Castellans. You could do it from their perspective, for him seeing their gain of power and watching Gardner collapse, and then giving up Highgarden to the dragons.
I think.
Yeah, I just think the plot's too linear.
There's a major problem, I think, with doing War of Conquest, being partially just about what Frost is saying about Aegon being unbeatable. I think by doing that show, you're kind of humanizing Aegon, who is, by all accounts, referred to as this kind of godly figure. He's unbeatable. He's a hero, and if you humanize him, you're kind of weakening the effect of what he did to some extent.
Right. Okay, but then you look into our real life.
I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from, but I see it almost as like it's. I mean, it's.
I prefer the fact that you don't know much about it. You just know Aegon wrecked everyone, and like that that gives you the sense of that was the height. The Targaryens were unbeatable. They were something new.
But no, but
that's why they were respected for so long.
I would love to see small things, just the small things of, like, say, Aegon saying he doesn't need a unique. He's happy with just his house guard. He doesn't need a king's guard, and where Visenya pulls out a sword and cuts his cheek within like a flash of a second before anyone can do anything, and then she goes, "That's why you need trained guards. That's why you need a special unit of guards, because I just fucked you up without you being able to do anything."
I do love the fact that Visenya is actually sort of crazy. Like what you see with when Maegor comes to power.
But yeah, that sort of shit is great. And you do World Conquest, and it leads on to like Maegor the Cruel and fucking all that kind of shit.
Faithful militant.
See how Westeros was built. I do like that angle.
It would be very symbolic seeing the carving of his table. That and would be an amazing
that's what I mean. The first season wouldn't even have to be about Aegon. You could do small little bits like how Daenerys was, where it's like her growing into power and realizing, okay, she is capable of, taking all this shit. It would be the exact same, but the main focus would be on the Starks and maybe dealing with the Boltons and
I could see them doing something where the entire season focuses on everyone else, and the last episode ends with like a slow pan up the table and just Aegon's hands coming onto the table. You don't even see him. The season ends with his hands touching the table.
If that happened, I would fucking lock my door and jerk off for about 6 hours. That'd be great.
Just like you just see his hands come down. You just see like a Targaryen, like a dragon ring or something on his hand, and he just slowly grips the table, and then you just see two figures walk up either side of him, obviously his sisters, and then it's slowly panning up.
Dragon watching his huge shadow flying past the window behind him.
But and just before it reaches any of their faces, it just ends. So you don't get to see actually who they are until the next scene. That would be an amazing scene.
That's it, and that sort of excitement brings it. It's unimaginable how fucking that's what.
It's unimaginable how many people you would get to jerk off over a scene with no nudity in it.
But that's not just for the book readers.
It would be very interesting to show people that the Baratheons weren't always in charge of Storm's End. A lot of people who just watch the show don't.
You could do like the first season being episode 1 introducing House Stark, and then episode 2 introducing the Lannisters.
You're slowly convincing me more and more, but I still don't because a lot of people love the major battles, and the major battles are all just dragons breathing fire and shit.
No, they ain't.
No, they're not.
Well, I mean, like it's just they're so one-sided.
You say the Field of Fire and stuff, but the Field of Fire...
They end on the side of the tour. Oris Baratheon fighting the Storm King. The Storm King almost fucking won.
Yeah,
the Field of Fire, the Reach and the Lannisters were winning until
the Field of Fire,
Balerion showed up.
Yeah, the Field of Fire, the Lannisters and the Gardeners were beating the shit out of the Targaryens until the...
And then Balerion came on and burned
Oris Baratheon was losing.
Yeah, but the thing is, they all end with a Targaryen win until you get to Dorne. That's the only point that I like.
You need to get past that, I feel.
I know, I like it. I'm coming around to your guys' side. I'm liking it more and more the more you guys are talking.
What you're saying, it's the same thing for everything. If you're watching Blackfire Rebellion, you know Daemon fails in the end.
Yeah, but he wins some battles, he loses some. I like that.
So do the Targaryens.
It's the Targaryen fleet. Heard of the main ones.
The Targaryen fleet gets crushed by the Iron Fleet until Viserys shows up. Visenya shows up with Meraxes or whatnot. There you go. Whoever.
Targaryen fucking names, honestly.
Yeah.
Viserys, Rhaena, Rhaenyra, Rhaenys, Vhagar.
Oris Baratheon almost loses. The Field of Fire is almost a loss as well.
Yeah, the Field of Fire.
I'm saying I would watch it. But I mean,
of course you'd fucking watch it.
What are you saying, Power?
Yeah.
Loom said until Balerion turned up in the Field of Fire, it was the only time that all 3 dragons were deployed in the same battle. That would be, and these dragons, fuck Drogon and all that kind of shit in Game of Thrones.
No, these things were fucking.
I would love to see the scale of Balerion.
3
oh my god,
gigantic fucking giants turning up into the field.
In that scene where the camera pans up from the table.
Violated.
In that scene where the camera pans up from the table and you look at the guy, just in the background from one of the slit windows, I just want to see a giant, freaking black mass fly past the...
Or just like the eye, like a dragon's eye, like open up.
I reckon I need to be hired to direct this show.
No, because then it would be fucking horrible. I need
to direct that.
It'd be worse than D&D. We'll be wishing for back in the days when they came up with
the show.
Excellent Dornish plot.
No, I want to direct that scene at the very end of the season. Where it shows Aegon.
But also the final scene of say the War of Conquest would be the forging of the Iron Throne. Huge symbolic.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would just be the forging of it and him sitting down in it.
Yeah, and how
crossing his legs or some shit.
He sits down in it and he just goes shit, and he's like cut his hand on it.
Yeah, he like bleeds to death. What the shit?
Actually, that'd be pretty symbolic. Aegon just cutting himself on the Iron Throne at the end.
Oh. No, can you imagine like a scene like it shows him sit down and like it does like a quick thing of like cutting between every single Targaryen king sat on the throne.
You've also got the entire Dornish arc and reinforcing the fact that the Dorne beat them.
That would be so bad.
Just picture that scene. You see Aegon sit down and the camera it keeps like flickering to different scenes, flicking through every king who sat on the throne. Going through all of them.
And it gets to
Aerys and then Robert's on the throne and it just ends.
But you also got the entire Dornish thing. Because how many armies fucking went into Dorne and got their asses kicked?
Yeah.
And then Meraxes dies, and then Aegon gets sent that letter from Dorne and crushes it in his hand, so his hand starts to bleed. That'd be a hell of a fucking scene.
Okay, but with going back to what I was saying about how to franchise it, doing War of the Conquest, going back with the War of Conquest, it would bring in every Game of Thrones viewer.
It gives you more scope.
And
it means you've set the end point and the start point. I see what you mean in that.
Yeah, it would allow the start of something incredible. You would have Duncan Egg cartoon, which I think would be the best way of doing it. And then, even if it was movies about, you would have the Reigns of Castamere,
just do everything to fill in all the gaps between what led from Aegon's conquest to that.
The story about Baelor the Blessed could be done as a movie, like all this sort of shit.
Prince's Past to do with young Daron, was it? At that point?
Yeah.
Whoever conquered Dawn. Young Daron?
Was that Daron? I think so. That sounds right.
Daron, yeah. Daron the second, the young dragon.
Yeah.
But it all stems from...
died at 17.
It all stems... So with the War of Conquest, you could skip ahead after doing it. You could skip a couple of Targaryen generations to get to the Blackfire Rebellions and the Nine Penny Kings and all. With that, you have about 15 years worth of filming.
Right.
15 years of a franchise.
Josh, can I just stop you for a second? I hate you because you've convinced me that they should do Aegon's Conquest.
Do you know why? Because I'm always fucking right.
I fucking hate you for actually convincing me to the point where I think that that's probably what they should. It's not what they're going to do.
No, I think they're going to do Robert's Rebellion.
I think they'll do Robert's Rebellion as well, but it'd be the poor way. That's why I said George R. R. Martin should just fucking hire me.
Yeah,
because I probably spend more time thinking about this shit than he does.
Hey George, just call us up. We'll set up the plots for all your next shows. Don't worry.
Who are you calling us? You two idiots couldn't. You two idiots.
The thing is,
George R. R. Martin
I think
not just want to jack off over my scene about Aegon.
What? Hey,
the scene about Aegon that all of us fucking had in our heads.
Idea.
Right, but even with source material, George R. R. Martin, say with his recent books, he's got two. I think they're Swedish. There's a husband and wife that help him. They're like the original, like proper George R. R. Martin nerds. He's the person that they contact when he's not sure about someone's eye color and their hip shape and all this kind of shit. And they help co-write A World of Ice and Fire and all that kind of stuff because they're so well versed into the lore. Those sort of people could, once Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring have been done, and I'm starting to get convinced that Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring are going to be released at the fucking same time because
I've read some stuff about that, so that's potentially could happen.
I just want to come in here. A World of Ice and Fire is a book that everybody should get.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's fucking magnificent.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a wonderful book.
But
I've heard of that shit.
And the way that it's not even the last one. He wants to do like a Similarian sort of thing on.
Continue, do all of them, do billions of them. I'll buy them all. I will throw money at them.
But these two people are the people that advise him. Once he's done A Winter and Dream of Spring, these two people are going to be open. And I don't think George R. once he's finished the kind of saga, I don't think he's going to want to go straight back onto it because he is a sci-fi writer. That's what he originally is. He did this on a whim, really.
You guys ever read Wildcards?
No, I haven't read any more. That's another.
I have it. It's on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
I've way to derail the situation, Frosty.
I'm sorry, it like popped into my head.
But these two people could be hired on it to represent George R. R. Martin and give a general story layout for different houses in War of Conquest and Ninepenny Kings and Dream of Spring and all that kind of shit. Like it. Yeah. And
the key is getting the good writers to flesh it out.
And the directors, like some directors, have made their name for themselves out of Game of Thrones, and they never say no to doing it again. And it's HBO, for fuck's sake; they can get whatever directors they want.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Battle of the Bastards and the last episode, Dungeons and Dragons, I actually think it's called.
Winds of Winter.
Yeah, is it the Winds of Winter?
I think it's called Winds of Winter. Hold up,
it might be the Winds of Winter. Yeah,
I'll check real quick. You keep going.
But the director that did that is, I want him in.
Yeah, it's Winds of Winter.
I would love for to direct every episode.
Translation for what Josh is saying about this director: he wants him in him.
The direct Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter were two of the best episodes ever.
Oh, they were amazing. Battle of the Bastards. Holy shit!
The cinematography was jaw-dropping.
Dude, like it was like it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, like the scene where Jon Snow like gets up off of his after his horse falls, and like the fucking cavalry charge when they clash together.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
My favorite scene, though.
My pants.
My favorite scene is his fight with Ramsay.
Dude, that was awesome. That was
him fighting Ramsay. It's just it was so good for his character.
Yes.
No, okay, but going into that, the cinematography for that episode was for both those. As I said in the other thing in the first episode podcast, we did the first 5 minutes of the last episode was just it was unique to Game of Thrones. The way that it was very little vocalization, where it was working on the music and you knew that, and it was working on facial expressions and you knew that was fucking dread coming. Like Cersei was fucking silent throughout the whole fucking thing. You got how they're all doing the like the child leading Grandmaster Pycelle and Qyburn sitting there in the corner. All of it was beautifully shot. But the Battle of the Bastards, someone that studied medieval warfare, there's never been something so fucking realistic. That was just the clash of
the bodies piling together and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Vikings? Have you guys ever watched the show Vikings? You know, like that shield wall shit that they did? It really reminded me of that show.
Yeah. But it was like the bits where they were saying how historically accurate the whole mass pile of bodies that they were having to climb over.
I was thinking that earlier. Yeah, I'm a history fan.
It's something I've watched. I've watched Battle of the Bastards, I think, probably about 20 times already. It's considering I've watched season 1 20 times, I've watched it, I think, 15 times. But
the guy's name is Miguel Sapochnik, Sapochnik. That's the guy's. Just whoever wants to know. That's according to IMDb.
But yeah, John literally fighting just to get air. That scene where it pans over on a bird's eye view, him just
that's so awesome.
As well as him on the ground, and there's little things.
The cavalry charge.
The cavalry charge is great, just actually showing the clash and people just fucking flying everywhere. But there was one thing. There was one thing I appreciated most out of that episode, and that was John's fighting. The battle's happening. The people are killing each other and all that kind of shit. And there's two people that are fighting each other, and John helps kill one of them, and then the guy that he just killed, the guy that was fighting the guy he just killed, then turns his sword onto John, and John kills him as well. These two people are fighting each other, and then John decides that both of them need to die because he's not sure what fucking side they're on. That's medieval fucking combat for you. That sums it out perfectly. And that sort of shit, that's a small scale battle. The North didn't have that many troops. You had wildlings and you had the Bolton army, both very small. Imagine a field of fire on that scale, and rather than a Vale charge, the charge of the Knights of the Vale, you have dragons. 3 monstrous dragons with King Aegon and Princess Visenya and Princess is it Aenys?
Queens.
Fucking Rhaenys fucking just scaling over and burning. What is it? 20,000 people died from
something
burning.
Like that,
yeah. 20 or 30.
Both Targaryen, Targaryen and Lannister and Tyrell, or Gardner men. Sorry.
Yeah, they burned their own.
But he burned his own men.
But he was losing anyway. He was about to break and.
Yeah, it was a ruthless decision by a ruthless ruler.
Okay, casualties. 4,000 men burned alive, 1,000 from sword and spears, 30,000 surrendered. Mern the Ninth, Edmund, and Gawain Gardner.
The entire Gardner family was killed.
Yeah, the last survivor of the Gardner line.
And fewer than 100 men and Visenya Targaryen were the...
Well, imagine that
Visenya
scene.
got injured. That was the Targaryen casualties.
But imagine that scene where the 3 dragons up, with the same sort of quality as Battle of the Bastards, where it's the right music, the right... you could do it, saying that we based the story on the Tyrells or the Garden, all these other factions, the Lannisters, basing on them, making them a likeable character, even to a sense that Jaime's likeable, even from the start. There's something about him kind of like...
That would be a really cool spin on the show.
And seeing it from their perspective.
Yeah, turning the Targaryens into the villain of the show.
Not even the villain, but putting them like it... How Game of Thrones is, there's no real villain. There's there's.
I see what you mean though. From their perspective,
that's almost 4 times
invader coming in and murdering, everybody.
And seeing Lannister lose all of his men, and like seeing 4,000 men surrounding him just burn,
and he just takes off his crown.
And with the right music, the right cinematography, the right actor.
I can imagine that be a thing, like Battle of the Bastards, where it's just like 40 minutes of just nobody talking, of just scenes,
screaming and stabbing and fire.
Yeah. But like even like with the reaction of the Lannister king, like he wouldn't even say anything. He'd just be there, just
turns around,
and like his face of would just say "Holy shit!" and like you can just imagine him just staring at the burning of all these people.
Because if they keep to the Battle of the Bastards and the Winter episodes, the last 2 episodes of season 6, if they kept to the standards of that quality for not just the next season and the next 2 seasons, but if they kept it for the whole franchise, that's the quality that they want to maintain it as. Fuck Star Wars, fuck Star Trek, fuck Lord of the Rings, fuck
Game of Thrones just wins.
It would just win because it's not pandering to anyone. It's not. It doesn't worry about if it's offending anyone. It literally just. It'd be a new era for TV shows. It'd be a new era for films. It'd be a new era for fucking, even with Duncan Egg being a cartoon. It'd be a complete new era, and it would just be fantastic. And just putting that to the side, the games within the next 10 years and how that advanced, especially with AI.
Let Bethesda make a fucking Game of Thrones game.
Rating AI shit.
If Bethesda the game of Thrones and let them do it.
Fuck that. Give it to Obsidian.
But if you look at
fucking Project Red, give it Project Red.
Yeah.
But okay, think about 10 years time. Imagine Dance of a Blackfire Rebellion or that kind of shit being a 360 VR movie where you're able to, like, you're seeing these.
There were words that could describe that.
Just Homer Simpson drooling.
But if the Game of Thrones franchise took that, used War of Conquest as a starting point, they have 15 odd years worth of filming to allow the advancement of this sort of technology to go with it. They could use the current style of Game of Thrones now with all the CGI improvements. The dragons would look more realistic. They could do bigger battles. It doesn't cost as much money these days as it did before, showing that they can do it on Game of Thrones now, and the money it would take in as well. And letting it progress with the technology and getting to the point where you have those sort of, you're allowed to have, like, even if it was a mini series, like a Netflix series of from, like, you know, Reigns of Castamere, but you're in a 360 VR of being just a soldier or just being.
Have you guys ever
seen Rome, the TV show?
Potentially. Who's in it?
It's the HBO adaptation of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony and Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
I usually don't watch shows like that because I get pissed off if they're inaccurate. I'm a big Rome freak, so if stuff's wrong, I get angry.
Rome is great. It follows Julius Caesar and his rise to power. Then it goes to Marcus.
Is it historically accurate?
You mean the one with Mance in it, isn't he?
Mance Rayder plays Julius Caesar.
Yeah, I know the one you're right.
Yeah.
Is it historically accurate or pretty close?
It's historically accurate, but they were smart with it. Rather than stick to, like, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Marcus Aurelius being the main characters and Cleopatra being main characters, it was two soldiers from the 14th Legion. The 14th? 13th? I forgot his legion. But they were two soldiers that fought in the conquest of Gaul, and you follow their storyline and how they're in the kind of background of everything. And you still see the major events happen, but they're the soldiers from that perspective. And you could do that down the line, saying that with the VR thing in 15 years time, from the perspective as a household guard or captain of the guard or all that kind of shit, and following their perspective of the story and then not being a major player. It's what made Rome so great. Rome is a great TV. It's only got 2 seasons.
Is that on Netflix?
I don't know. It's HBO, so I don't know.
It's not on Netflix. There's a different series on Netflix called Rome.
But
okay. I'm gonna watch that actually. I'm gonna put that on my list.
Yeah, it's like the last season towards the end it got rushed because they had funding cancelled, and it was a great shame because it was Rome was the starting point for. I think even Rome was the thing that made George R. R. Martin say, "I only want HBO to adapt this," because it was
because they've got the money to not rush shit.
Yeah, and Rome got rushed at the end because it wasn't getting the viewers, and now it's a really.
I hate when shows do that. Like when you find a really good show and then they fuck it up at the end.
But the thing is, it wasn't that popular at the time, but now it's really popular. And I didn't hear of it until about 2 years ago, maybe. And I've watched it. I've watched the series, I think, 3 times. And yeah, it's and you can tell where they were influenced on Game of Thrones. And you have several actors from Rome in Game of Thrones because they knew that they could. The person that plays Ilia Martell is the wife of the lead soldier guy that you follow in Rome. You got Mance Rayder who plays Julius Caesar. Edmund Tully is Brutus. I think that's what made that Edmund Tully actors. He's one of my favorite actors just because of his portrayal as Brutus. His use of voice and all that kind of shit is fantastic, and that's what makes me like Edmund Tully in the show a lot more than I do like him in the books. I hate him in the books, as well as because in the books, the stone mill cost Rob the war, but
yeah. In the book,
but no, but using that kind of stance, even if you were to do it for War of Conquest, following the household guard of House Gardner or House Lannister or all that kind of stuff, you allow the story
or a soldier with Ori's Baratheon or something.
Yeah,
I was thinking like two brothers, the guardsmen in Dragonstone. Like they get split off. One goes with Varys, and one heads out to the field of fire.
Oh, no. That has so much potential. Modern technology just freaks me out. It's so amazing.
But that's what technology is going to be in about 10 years. Like we're selling VR headsets at work at the moment. And
like the Samsung things.
You sell VR headsets at a garage?
They do that.
It comes with we have a special offer on car, or if you buy the car, or you get a free gift, and that's the VR headset.
Cool.
And we've got a testing one. Well, we've got one there for display, and I tested it with my mobile. You go on a little YouTube video that it says you stick it into the VR thing. Your phone is in the VR, and it's 360, and it's cool. It's not great quality and all that kind of shit.
But if you get the ones that don't require the phone, they're a lot better, apparently.
Yeah.
But this is a lot. This is more practical. For now.
But
cheaper.
If you think about 10 years, if you just even look at your fucking computer games, 10 years ago, what Medieval 2 was like, released? Medieval 2 was fantastic. And then if you look at
think about 1 year from now.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're Total War players, look at Total War. Medieval 2, how it was. I don't know if you guys played Shogun 1 or Medieval 1.
Yeah, I did.
Or even Rome 1. Yeah. Even if you look at the graphics of Rome 1 compared to Rome 2 within a 10-year period, it's scary. Rome 2 is a shit game, but it's scary.
Yeah, let's not talk about the gameplay, but the graphics.
I was about to say, not the gameplay. Rome 1's way better.
Yeah, by far.
Rome 1 is probably my favorite Total War game ever.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like, if they took, like, some of the mechanics from Medieval 2 and threw them into Rome 1, oh my god.
I just need to go back. It was a comment you made about the soldiers or whatever, from the set for the soldiers, and you're saying the two different soldiers two soldiers for Aegon's Conquest, whatever. And it just reminded me of Dance of Dragons, the Cargill twins, whatever. They're Kingsguard, Arik and Eric. One of them sided with with Rhaenys. The other sided with Aegon.
That's like a famous kind of thing. That's
Rhaenyra and Aegon, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just really cool. I just imagine from their both perspectives, like their conflicting emotions about what they're doing, who they're siding with.
It's this sort of thing that makes there's so much capability, and I think the only way that they'd be able to pull it off properly is to get the writers for the two people that write for George R. R. Martin, to get those two people in to do it on his behalf, so George R. R. Martin can focus on his other work, so he's not. And
fundamental not just thing would be getting the right writers.
But if they were to turn it into a massive franchise, it would fuck up Lucasfilms. It would top everything, and it would.
If they did it right.
And if they did Dunk and Egg like they did Star Wars Rebels, so you don't see like gory deaths, but you still see deaths.
Or if they did Dunk and Egg as like a movie trilogy, even. Even if they did that, like I could see Dunk and Egg even doing well as just like one movie.
But the thing is, if you look at I don't know if you guys have seen Rogue One.
Your cartoon idea, I like it. I haven't seen Rogue One yet.
No, not yet.
Okay, but even if you look at the Force Awakens, it's a lot more brutal than the previous ones. It's more adult. It's a lot. There are elements of a lot more dark.
It's like a product of a generation more, I'd say.
Yeah, but the great thing about what Disney have done, they've agreed to carry on Star Wars Rebels, and it's still canon to lore. So it makes adults, people that are the lore nerds, go right. I want to watch this still, just because I don't want to miss anything. So like Darth Maul's still alive in it, and you got all this other shit going on with, like, I think his name's Ezra.
Yeah,
it's all this huge shit that leads up to and you see Darth Vader a couple of times, and you see Palpatine a couple of times. It's great. It's nice seeing like these badass villains, like say Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, seeing him pull out a lightsaber and showing off his full capability as a Sith. You don't see that in the movie. You see it kind of briefly in the movies, but not really.
Some of his full capabilities, like in the old canon, was just crazy. Like his Sith whatever storm like that he could make was like from that clone shit that he made.
Very off topic.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not, because if the core part of Star Wars Rebels, it allows the younger audience to grow up with knowing what that cartoon. You could watch that cartoon from 5 years old, and it would be okay. And you have plenty of adults that watch.
Yeah, you can't watch Game of Thrones at 5 years old right now.
Yeah, exactly. But if you had Duncan Egg to allow that progress of that sort of the new age of people, they would then start.
Sells more merchandise too.
Yeah, in like your mid-teens, they would start watching Game of Thrones and watching whatever else adaptations they do. The movies everyone would want to see.
Cartoons definitely the way to go. Duck and Egg.
And the movies won't be so sexualized to say as the TV show is and all that kind of shit, which will allow a bit younger audiences to come in and all. It would be the new franchise.
And I feel like if they wanted to do a cartoon, that would be the best thing to do it with.
Yeah.
I feel like they couldn't do it.
They did the graphic novels and everything on Duncan Egg. You've got really good guidelines on how to do the art, what designs of characters.
Egg is already a sort of more child's like adventure story.
Well, yeah, it follows a child.
Well, it is an adventure. It is.
That's kind of what it's intended for. More.
Yeah, it's about the growing up of a child. It's about life lessons and all the rest of it. It's more there's like morals to the story.
Yeah,
and every adventure they have.
It's intended to be a child's.
Yeah.
You know, more targeted towards that anyway.
Yeah, so it makes more in that role.
And it allows the development, and then even to a point where, even once George R. R. Martin just goes, right, I'm going to let someone else take the reins on this. If he ever does let someone take, like say how Tolkien let his children take the reins on the Tolkien franchise, and with the stories. So I think the Children of Rune was written by his son. I don't know if you guys ever read the Children of the Ring, but it's Lord of the Rings, like Middle-earth based story. But it was like notes, pretty much just notes from George R. R. Martin, where his son took over it. George R. R. Martin, J.R. Tolkien, and his son took over the reins and wrote the book for him. And George R. R. Martin has two people that are perfectly capable of doing that, as well as he has other people that I'm sure he trusts well enough to do that kind of. I think he's got Stephen King to write a couple of chapters and a couple of the
he gets Stephen King to give opinions on the chapters and stuff he writes. Stephen King always looks over them before he publishes the books, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but like he is the new J.R.R. Tolkien. He is the big cheese when it comes.
He's the biggest name in fantasy book writing.
And the best thing about that is the fact that he doesn't focus on fantasy. He focuses on the politics and all that kind of shit. And he's left a new foundation for writers to go with. And people are completely influenced by him now. Okay. And to turn that to be, you could turn so, even after Daenerys' conquest or whatever happens, you can do stories after that. And you got the whole Targaryen dynasty, you got before the Targaryens, you got the first Age of Heroes against the White Walkers and all that kind of shit. You got the Brandon the Builder. You got what happens in you got what happens in a Shire. You got the 12 towers, 3 towers, or whatever the fuck it is.
12 towers, yeah, for sure.
You got that happens off on Essos. You got Nymeria and the Martells and that whole story arc. That's fucking 2 seasons right there. Fucking easy enough. Exactly. Okay. The Andal invasion.
I really want to see the Andal invasion so bad.
And like the battle with the Children of the Forest and fucking lifting up the fucking the causeway between Westeros and Essos. Trying to sink the neck and the creation of the White Walkers. So much elements to do.
Yeah, it's
and capability of things. And it's just them taking the right step and not taking the easy route out, and that's what Robert's Rebellion is an easy route out. And it's appealing to people who think they want it, but I think they'd be let down by
it. It's the safe road is what it is going through.
So
and sometimes you got to take a risk.
We're pretty much coming up on an hour of us talking about this.
Yeah, I do believe.
So if we want to quickly probably just go over a similar thing to last time, what would you most want? What is the main area you'd want each of you for the spin-off? The first spin-off, what do you want it to be?
Parrot, you go first.
I want Robert's Rebellion, but for the sake of everything that's possible, I think War of Conquest is the best era to do because it allows the foundation of everything else to happen in the future.
Okay.
Loom?
I agree with Josh in the use of Aegon's Conquest. That would be really good. I think Robert's Rebellion is probably what they're going to do. I really want to see Dance of Dragons just for the political ability of that.
I do like the twin concept with the brothers.
Yeah,
with the King.
I just think there's so much depth that you can add to that, and there's a lot of content on the Dance of Dragons as well.
Yeah. Frosty?
I agree.
Jacob.
Dance of Dragons has... hey, fuck you. I think Dance of Dragons has so much potential. I really do like the spin you put on the War of Conquest, where you could go back to the beginning and then work your way back up to where we're at. Like kind of like the Star Wars take on it, and then work your way back up to the present point. I'd be okay with that. I do not like the idea of jumping straight into a Robert's Rebellion, but I see that as the way that they're going to go. I'm looking forward to Dance of Dragons the most, but I'd be happy with anything. If they don't, shortchange it.
Yeah. It's essentially the same as me. I'd like to see War of Conquest with them flushing out the characters, taking a lot of creative freedom with it, and going to all that we discussed, essentially. The safe route, and most likely what they will do, is Robert's Rebellion, which I'd still look forward to and would watch the shit out of, but it's the safe and easy route to take, and might not be the best for the future of the whole thing.
Don't get me wrong, I do love Robert's Rebellion.
Oh yeah, I would watch the shit out of it. It would probably be good, but I don't think it's so much the ambitious road as the safe one.
It's playing it safe, but sometimes you gotta take a chance.
Duck and Egg as a cartoon is the way to go for that story, as far as I'm concerned.
I think if they're gonna do a cartoon, that's the way to do it.
Oh yeah, if there's any story set for that kind of format, is definitely Duck and Egg.
But if they don't want to do a cartoon, that would be a great movie.
No, yeah.
But no, just because my selfish love for the lore, and the fact that I spend nearly every fucking waking minute thinking about fucking Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you're way deeper than I am.
As pathetic as that may be, but even when I'm at work, if I'm writing either notes on what to do for the hot seat community or writing notes on Game of Thrones and
in between swigs of his vodka bottle.
But I want this whole thing to I want to be able to turn into an old man with this story. I grew up with Lord of the Rings, and now I want to grow old with Game of Thrones. And
how romantic!
That was poetic as fuck. That was poetic. Single tear drips down my cheek.
I just don't. I don't want it to see it vanish, because it would suck. The books
it's got longevity in it.
The books will eventually end, and it's too good to give up on.
Yeah.
And from the War of Conquest is just
got something for you.
The sole War of Conquest is the sole purpose of the story of Game of Thrones is to start with, really.
Yeah. Frosty, you're ending your point.
It's just books for people.
Huh?
Like
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
not Game of Thrones. It's just good books for people to read. It's the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. They are fucking amazing. They're fantasy books and they're very good. I think you guys should check them out. And I want, any viewers listening, if you guys want to read them, they're really, really good. I highly recommend them.
I'll just try and put one in the description. Amazon, I was like.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really good. I highly recommend them. Brent Weeks. All of his stuff is good.
All right. If nobody else has anything to add, we'll end this here.
That was the spin-offs.
Alright, guys. That's all for now. Fucking Conclave over. Fuck off. Soul out.
Oh, wow.
Savage.
Fuck
off. That's the Conclave over. Fuck off. Soul out.
Yeah, that's how the Maesters officially end every meeting.
Civil conversation.
That's how the Maesters officially end every meeting. Guys. Let's go fuck off, flip off, and bugger off. That's how the Maesters get shit done.